Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Today I'm doing a kind of video I haven't done in quite a long time, and that is an album ranking or a discography ranking or whatever you'd like to call it. So today I'm going to be talking about the band Demon Hunter. Now these guys have been one of my favorite bands for quite a while. I'm wearing my War and Peace shirt that I got for pre-ordering the album just because why not, I felt like it. I just kind of felt like doing this today, partially because I like Demon Hunter. I just kind of felt like listening to Demon Hunter a little bit today, and I was like, hey, I should rank their albums. But then also, ever since War and Peace came out, like a little over a month ago now, I've been wondering how they were going to stack up against the rest of their albums, where I would place them in my ranking, and if my ranking has shifted at all. And I did, for quite a long time, have a somewhat definitive ranking of Demon Hunter albums, but lately I've been kind of thinking about it a little bit more as I've been listening more to War and Peace and everything, thinking about their music as a whole. I just put this list together like literally in like no time, but I think it is generally pretty solid, and I am actually quite surprised by how I ranked some things. There's some unpopular opinions on here, so keep that in mind. Some things that I really enjoy, or used to really enjoy, and had at like the top 1 or 2 or something like that, have moved down. Things that used to be towards the bottom a little bit more have moved up a little bit. So it's kind of weird to see how this turned out. So just keep in mind, this is my opinion. There's some unpopular opinions in this list, and things that I think some Demon Hunter fans would certainly disagree with, but this is just how I would rank them. This is how much I enjoy their albums, from best to worst. And keep in mind, I don't really think Demon Hunter has any bad albums as well. I think all of these albums are at least decent. Like, towards the bottom, I think like the bottom couple albums or so are like kind of meh, but they still got some good stuff on them, so I don't really think Demon Hunter has ever released an outright bad album, which is certainly a good thing. So at the bottom, of course, an album has to be at the bottom, and I feel like most people will probably generally agree with this one. At the bottom, I have The World is a Thorn. Now again, I don't think this is a bad album by any means. I think there is certainly some really good stuff on here. Some of my all-time favorite Demon Hunter songs actually are on this album, such as Life War and the title track. I also really like Just Breathe as well. It does have some really good stuff on it, for sure. Descending on Plaudus as well is a very underrated song, I think. But in the end, it's just their most mixed bag kind of album, if that makes sense. It has some of their really great stuff on it, but it also has some of their worst stuff on it, like Shallow Water, Blood in the Tears. Driving Nails is a decent song, but it's probably one of, if not their weakest ballad, if you ask me. So, yeah, it's just all around kind of a mixed bag, but it does still have some great stuff on it, for sure. And I do still enjoy it. Now this one is going to be where the unpopular opinion, one of them, is gonna come in for sure. A lot of people in YouTube comments, as well as on places like Reddit, have been like, how could you possibly say this is one of Demon Hunter's worst albums? But it just doesn't do much for me, and that is the Triptych. Now I know that it is pretty much sacrilege for a Demon Hunter fan to say that the Triptych is one of their least favorite albums, but honestly that's just how it is for me. Now that's not to say again that I think there's anything, that there's nothing good on here. Not I think is a pretty solid opening. Undying, wow, very overrated in my opinion. The main guitar riff and the chorus are both highlights. Deteriorate and 1000 Apologies, in my opinion, are two of the best ballads that Demon Hunter has ever done, as well as The Tide Began to Rise, especially Deteriorate. I think that's a fantastic song. Fire to My Soul also is pretty solid, but then you've got stuff that just never has resonated with me at all, like Relentless Intolerance, Ribcage, and the Soldier song, which just never really grabbed me that much. The Soldier song especially I was kind of surprised by, because that's one of Demon Hunter's closest songs to melodic death metal. Melodic death metal is one of my favorite subgenres of metal, and somehow I just don't like it. I just think it's bland, boring, not really that interesting. Still a decent album. I do enjoy some of the stuff on here. And then my third to least favorite, I guess you could say, at spot number 8 anyway, is Outlive. Now this was Demon Hunter's last album before they released both War and Peace. And I do think I hated this album a little too much when it first came out. I really didn't like it really at all before it, or when it came out, aside from a couple songs. It has grown on me since then. I do think there's more good stuff on here than I initially did. I think Trying Times is a decent opening. It's not really much to it, but I think it's kind of a cool opening. Died in My Sleep is a pretty solid song. Half Is Dead is a song that has grown on me immensely. I absolutely hated it when it first came out as a single, but now I think it's pretty good. Cold Blood, pretty solid song as well. One Step Behind is a good ballad. Patience is a really unique song for Demon Hunter that I really like, and Slight the Odds is a great closer. But then there's also songs like Cold Winter Sun, which in my opinion is not that great of a song. Raining Down, which is okay but not great. The End, which is one of the worst songs Demon Hunter has ever done. Mostly because of the synths, and I don't usually say the synths are a bad thing about a song, because I think generally in most of what I've heard from Demon Hunter and from other bands, they're used pretty decently. But this song just used them terribly. They're just like front and center, and they sound horrible, and there is a good song underneath them, but it just gets buried. But yeah, there's that, and then there's One Less, which I'm not really a big fan of. So again, kind of a mixed bag, but it's still got some good stuff on it. The bonus tracks on here are pretty good as well. Fear I Used to Know is pretty decent, not great. It's one of my least favorite Demon Hunter bonus tracks, but it's still good. And then Savage, I think, is a really great song as well. So overall, it's a decent album, but it's not one of their best. Next, I have possibly one of Demon Hunter's most underrated albums, and that is their self-titled debut album. Now, I know that there are some people who watch my videos who this album has a very special place in their heart, and they enjoy it a lot, and of course I do agree with that. I think it is a really good album, very underrated as well. You don't really hear people talk about it that much, but in the end, the other stuff is just better, and it's not one that I go back to a whole lot, but again, there is some good stuff on here. Screams of the Undead, again, a good opener. Infected's a good song. My Throat is an Open Grave and The Gauntlet are great ballads, some of Demon Hunter's best if you ask me. So again, it is a pretty good album, but it's just one that I don't really go back to a whole lot, and that's really the main reason it's so low. Now up next, about halfway through, I have what used to be one of my favorite Demon Hunter albums, but it's grown off me since, and that is Summer of Darkness. Now, I do still think this is a pretty good album. It has some pretty good stuff on it. Not Ready to Die is a classic Demon Hunter song. The Awakening and Beheaded, I think, are also pretty good. Our Faces Fall Apart, Less Than Nothing, Summer of Darkness, those are pretty good songs. Annihilate the Corrupt also. I Play Dead is one of my all-time favorite Demon Hunter songs, probably within my top 5 or potentially my top 3. So there is some good stuff on here, but ultimately there's just some other stuff that I don't really think is as good. Like Beauty Through the Eyes of the Predator is alright, but not great. Everything Was White, Coffin Builder, and The Latest and the Last are decent, but they end the album on a bad note if you ask me. And My Heartstrings Come Undone, which is, of course, a classic Demon Hunter song that everybody loves, but I just don't see it. It just doesn't appeal to me that much. But again, still a pretty good album. It does have a lot of really good stuff on it. Next up is possibly one of the biggest surprises for me when I was putting together the list, although not quite the biggest surprise to me. And that is that what used to be my favorite Demon Hunter album has moved down to spot number 5. And that is Storm the Gates of Hell. Now, not too long ago, I considered this my favorite Demon Hunter album, but like I said, it's since moved down a little bit, especially since War and Peace came out, but also just listening to the other couple of albums that I have not mentioned yet, and kind of thinking, oh, these are probably better. But it is still, of course, a great album. I do really enjoy Storm the Gates of Hell. Solid opener. Again, a classic Demon Hunter song. Lead Us Home in 16 are pretty good. Fading Away and Carry Me Down are some of the strongest songs that the band has ever done, I think. Carry Me Down especially is one of my favorites. Incision and Thorns are great songs, also quite underrated if you ask me. And The Wrath of the God is a pretty solid closer, and the bonus tracks, No Reason to Exist is okay but not great, but Grand Finale is a fantastic song. It's kind of a weird thing for me to put this so low, considering I thought it was my favorite for such a long time, but really, that's just how it ended up. Still a fantastic album, of course. It's just there's others that I think are better. Now at number 4, my fourth favorite Demon Hunter album is one of their new ones, which is Peace. This album I was not expecting to be this high on the list, probably more so before the album came out than after. But I was not expecting it to be this high, because while I thought that Demon Hunter could for sure do a good album like this, I wasn't sure how well it would be pulled off. But they managed to do a really good job with this, I think, both War and Peace. More Than Bones, fantastic song, one of my favorites on the album. I Don't Believe You, I didn't like much at first, but it's grown on me. Loneliness and Peace are also pretty solid songs. When the Devil Come, one of their most unique songs and one of my favorites from the album as well. Recuse Myself and Fear Is Not My Guide are also very unique songs. I really love those as well. And then the bonus track, Tear You Down, one of the best songs on the album if you ask me. It should have been on the regular edition, I think, but that's just how it turned out. What ultimately kept it from being higher, because I did consider having this a little bit higher, are songs like Two Ways and Time Only Takes, which, in my opinion, are easily the weakest songs on the album, especially Two Ways, which is just not that good, if you ask me, but the rest of the stuff is pretty good. I do enjoy the album a lot. I really like what they did with War and Peace having one heavy album, one soft album, and I was very worried about how well they would pull it off, but especially with Peace, considering we've really never had an album like this before, whereas Demon Hunter has done a few albums that are just generally very heavy. But Peace, really solid album, I really enjoy it a lot, definitely a great addition to their discography. And next up, cracking into the top 3, we have the companion to Peace, which is War. Now I did actually kind of want this album to be a little higher, because I have actually really been enjoying it a lot. And I actually at first preferred Peace over War when the albums first came out, but it's since kind of shifted a little bit for me. I do think that War and Peace are nearly equal in quality. I will say that. I think they're both really good albums, but in the end what made me prefer War over Peace? War, in my opinion, there's only one song that is absolutely not really worth going back to at all, which is No Place For You Here. Whereas Peace has Two Ways and Time Only Takes, which Time Only Takes is still a pretty decent song, but I'd never go back to it. So that, in the end, is what made me prefer War over Peace. But it is still both of them are still really good. But War, it's got songs like Close Enough, Unbound, The Negative, and Leave Me Alone, which I think are all pretty solid. Cut to Fit is a decent opener, one of their weakest openers if you ask me, but still pretty decent. I really didn't like it when it first came out, but it has since grown on me. Gunfight, which is the bonus track, which is not as good as Tear You Down, in my opinion, from Peace, but it is still pretty good for a bonus track. But then you've got songs like Lesser Gods, which is one of Demon Hunter's most unique songs. I kind of get almost like black metal vibes at some points from the song. It's just got that kind of darkness, yet still a lot of energy to it, which I really like. And then you've got On My Side, which was the first song that got released from this album, which may be one of my favorite Demon Hunter songs. Like, I'm talking more so than I Play Dead. Like, I'm thinking like top 2, top 3 favorite Demon Hunter songs. So I really enjoy that one, so of course that's going to bump it up a little bit for me, but overall, it's a really fantastic album. And at number 2, this was the other big surprise for me. The placement of number 2 and number 1 was the big surprise for me. But ultimately, I was just thinking about it a little bit, and this ranking just made sense for me. Possibly an unpopular opinion, I'm not really sure. But at number 2, I've got True Defiance. Now, this was my first Demon Hunter album, I think. I do have that nostalgia for it. I think it is a great album. I do have a lot of nostalgia for it, like I just said. But ultimately, it just falls a tiny bit short, in my opinion. You know, songs like Crucifix and Godforsaken, fantastic songs. Godforsaken is one of my all-time favorites, and Crucifix is a great opener. Wake, Someone to Hate, This I Know, all pretty good songs. I really enjoy those ones. Resistance and Dead Flowers end the album on a pretty high note. The bonus tracks, What Is Left and I Am a Stone, are also quite good. But then you get songs like Means to an End, which is just pure filler. It could have been way shorter, it's just a little interlude. I don't know why they decided to even include it. It's probably better off if you just don't listen to this song when you listen to the album. And then My Destiny, which is a pretty popular Demon Hunter song, but I've just never really got into it that much. And Tomorrow Never Comes is a decent ballad, but not that great if you ask me. So again, there is some really fantastic stuff on here, and it is one of their best albums for sure. I don't believe there's any Demon Hunter fan that can really dispute that, and if you can, then that would really surprise me. But yeah, definitely one of their best albums, and I really love it a lot. But in the end, there had to be a number one, and this is the biggest surprise of the list for me. Thinking about this, and that is Extremist. So this used to be kind of more in the middle for me. I thought it was kind of maybe number 3, number 4, somewhere around there. I thought it was still really good, but it wasn't this high. But after listening to this album again more recently, I just found myself really enjoying it a lot. The album starts off really strong with 5 fantastic songs right in a row with Death, Artificial Light, What I'm Not, Last One Alive, and I Will Fail You, which are all great songs. One Last Song is still quite good, not as good in my opinion, but it is still a very good song. Cross to Bear, one of their best heavy songs to date in my opinion. How Don't Need Me, which is a pretty good song, one of their weaker ballads in general, I think, but still a very good song. In Time and Beyond Me are kind of similar in the way that they are done, but I still really enjoy both of those. Gasoline kind of reminds me of I Play Dead a little bit, which might be why I like it so much, because I really like I Play Dead. But I really love how this song is done, how it's kind of soft. It seems like it's going to be a ballad, but then in the chorus it just gets really heavy. And I really like that about it. It's just a really cool song in terms of how it sounds and lyrically, I think, as well. Heart of a Graveyard is one of the weaker songs on the album, I think, but still a pretty good closer, kind of a unique Demon Hunter song. And then the bonus tracks, Waste Me and Helpless Hope, also are pretty good, and I really enjoy those. So overall, it's just a really solid album. It was very difficult to choose between really the whole top 5, but especially the top 3 being Extremist, True Defiance, and War. And in the end, this one just, to me, made the most sense to have it number 1. So, yeah. So that is pretty much it for this video. Let me know what you guys think, how you would rank Demon Hunter's albums. Is there anything that you disagree with me about? I'm sure there probably is. But let me know all that in the comments below. If there's any other bands that you'd like me to do something like this for, because I do enjoy doing these discography rankings. Let me know if there's any bands that you guys would like me to see rank their discography. Of course, it would depend on if I've heard their discography, but if there's any of that, then let me know. And that is pretty much it for this video, so I will see you guys next time.